welcome again to Friendships That Flourish, the podcast, where we dive into the intricacies of building and nurturing meaningful connections that stand the test of time. Join us as we explore the dynamics of friendship, sharing inspiring stories, and uncovering actionable tips for fostering deeper and more fulfilling friendship. Today, I am your host, friend Regina Nicole, and today on the couch, I have with me Coach Latoya Kight. I'm so excited. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
How you feeling?
I feel good, and I'm so glad you invited me.
Of course. So you're like a celebrity to me. So let me just put that out there.
Okay. Great.
So today, episode, we're going to talk about how to navigate friendships in different life stages. And so I'm super excited to dive into this. Again, this is a conversation, not an interview. I like to, let me just tell the people how great you are. So let's tell the people about, you are an author,
yes,
a coach,
yes,
life coach, relationship coach, right?
Yes.
You are a wife, a mom.
Yes.
Are you a granny or a nana?
Yes. Well, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I call myself Gammy.
Gammy,
yeah,
okay.
I call myself Gammy, but we don't know what she's going to call me.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
We'll see.
So you're all of the things.
Yeah.
And so thank you again for taking time out to join us today. Yes. I always ask guests with this one question to open up, and it is, what does it mean to you to have a friendship that flourish?
Because it means a lot. And being that I'm a relationship coach, that's kind of where it stemmed from, because friendships to me mean the world. And I believe that partnering with people in life helps you to elevate in places that you probably would have never elevated on your own.
Oh, wow.
So having those connections and having those people that can really like tug on you and be like, hey, you may not want to do that, or hey, pushing you forward to do something or whatever. I think that's very important, in the wisdom that you gain and the knowledge and the tools that and the skills that you get from those around you really helps you to be a greater person. And so I definitely am all about friendships. I absolutely love friends.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I am too. I think what I've been sharing with people is that I have been having this conversation with myself and kind of with other people about the importance of friendships and how pivotal and valuable friendship is. And so I think that today's topic, like I say, I'm super excited to dive into that, because a lot of times when we talk about friendships, it's very challenging to go to a hard place. And so when we think about differences, we always look at like negative, when I'm like, no, differences actually allows us to rediscover, evolve, grow. So that type of thing. So thank you for sharing that. Some of the things that feedback I've gotten from other people about how they view a friendship that is flourishing was giving yourself or the other person grace.
Yes, absolutely.
Someone mentioned like being able to plant a seed and water that seed. Like they use the analogy of a flower, and how like before the flower is a visual thing that you see, you're doing all of these things to nurture that so that it can grow. One of the things that I mentioned was like forgiveness is important with having a friendship that flourish, as well as accountability and integrity. So I am going to add your stuff to the word bank for us. So thank you for sharing that. So as I mentioned, how to navigate friendships in different life stages. When you hear that whole thing, what are your thoughts about that?
So because I have gone through a lot in life, and I have seen how people have been able to handle me and my situations through those stages, definitely has shown me who is built for it, who's not built for it, who is going to be long-standing, who is just for a season.
Right.
So it got me to this place where I am now understanding that it doesn't mean that anything was wrong with that person or they did anything bad. It just means that they're not able to be the kind of friend that I need in the capacity that I need them to be my friend whenever I'm dealing with whatever I'm dealing with. So when I was diagnosed and went through cancer, I saw the friends start to fall away. I saw the people that couldn't handle the weight of my illness. And I saw where people stood tall during that time, and people that were there that really stuck by me through all the ups and downs and the real downs of all of that. So it really made me rethink and re-navigate relationships and friendships, because it's like, okay, where I'm going in life, I need you to be able to handle some things that I don't even know if I can handle them. Because who would have known I would have been diagnosed with cancer? Right. I don't know what to do with that. I've been through it with people that have been through it, but I didn't know what to do with that. So to now see that and how people handle that, and when I went through anything in my past, raising my children and all the things that you go through doing that, a lot of my friends didn't have kids because I had them very young. So the people that were my age, they weren't having children. They were going off to college and all this stuff like that, but they were still some of them that stuck by me and understood the transitions of being a parent. So there are different things where I'm noticing, okay, I see that that's not going to be your strong point. You're not going to be able to handle this about me. And again, that doesn't make you a bad person. That just means that me and you can't be that kind of friend. We can be cool. Okay. We can be cordial, okay? We can be all the things, but we may not be that kind of friend, because the trajectory of my life needs people that are able to stand in the pain.
Okay.
And if you can't stand in the pain,
period.
The hanging out, going to brunches and all that stuff like that, that's cute and all, but we be in warfare sometimes, and I need you to be able to stand tall, So I've looked at all of that, and that has been something that I've really paid attention to and made sure that I am choosing wisely when it comes to friendship.
Okay, so let's go back. You mentioned, thank you first. Let me say thank you for sharing that. So let's go back. You mentioned being a mom. And so let's kind of go back to a little bit about, like, maybe set the scene of your journey into motherhood and how that might have shifted friendship, if that makes sense. Or like maybe it took something, the scales, as people say, off of your eyes about like, oh, like I'm entering into this phase of motherhood and friendship potentially looks different for me now. So let's talk about that.
Well, first,
because that's a life stage.
That is definitely a major life stage. First of all, I was a kid having kids. Okay. So that's just started there. Okay. I became pregnant with my first child at 16 years old. Okay. So at 16, you're in high school. You're trying to be a kid. Right. You're not thinking about having children and all this stuff at that point. You're thinking down the line once I graduate college and all those things like that. But hey, I ended up doing, instead of, first comes love, then come marriage, and come the baby. No, it was
first come the baby.
Come the baby. So that, trying to figure that out, that I now am responsible for a whole human being that I got to keep alive.
Yes, and keep alive. Not just a whole human being.
Not just have them. I got to keep them alive. Right. So I got to raise a whole human being while I'm still being raised. Right. My mom isn't finished raising me. Right. So now I am bringing a life into this world, and now my friends who are not thinking about that, they have to now navigate that. Oh, Toya not going to be the same Toya anymore, because she can't come. Oh, we want to go, because that back then you ain't really doing no major stuff. You went to the park, the movies and stuff like that. Right. Or I can't call her up to go to the movies because she got to find a babysitter. Yeah. She's trying to be a mother, so she can't have the freedom that we have. So watching once we graduated school, and watching my friends go off to college, some of my closest friends, they're going off to college, doing their own thing in their lives, I felt rejection. I felt abandonment, because I wasn't doing those things. And not saying that you can't. I wasn't thinking about college. I was thinking about, I need to raise this baby. I wasn't thinking about going to college. Hey, long as I graduate high school and get me a good job, I'm good. Okay. So, but my friends, they were going off to school doing their own thing. So it's like, I feel abandoned. I feel alone, because they couldn't in no way understand what I'm dealing with, because they're not dealing with it. Yeah. They're living the college life. They're living the young adult life. So it was really hard to navigate. So a lot of those friends did fall off, because I am pretty much have grown up in a matter of months because I got to push out a baby
Yeah.
and raise a baby. So now I pretty much have grown up, and you guys are still in the mentality of, hey, I'm out here trying to have fun.
Yeah.
And I can't have as much fun trying to
Right.
raise a baby. So it was real difficult. I went through a lot of emotional stuff, a lot of internal torment, because I really felt like my friends were turning their backs on me, but they were just living their lives.
Right.
So a lot of those friendships kind of wavered, but once we got older and kind of really matured, we kind of connected again, and they've become my children's aunts and uncles. It's because now they know them, because that's been my friends since you guys were born. So I am grateful for that wisdom, to know that just because we're in different life stages doesn't mean that we can't still be friends and flourish a relationship.
That's important, because I was one of my next questions was going to be, you know, what did you learn about yourself? Maybe not in the moment. You saw things happening, but I don't know that it was a learning thing. But then later on, here it is, you mentioned like we've reconnected. And so with the reconnecting, was there conversation around that about like, hey, like when I was 16, I felt abandoned. When I was 16 and became a mother, I felt like y'all left me out, like that type of thing. Because I don't know, from my vantage point, it's like the reality of it is y'all were all kids.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like, it doesn't take anything away from, like you said, all of these emotions that you were navigating. But the bottom line is that we were all kids, and like, we didn't know how to navigate this. None of us did.
Yeah.
So here we are years later. So to hear you say that some of those people, or maybe all of those people, you guys have reconnected and kind of like they're your children's aunts and uncles, that's good to hear. What was it like maybe confronting those emotions later on with them?
Some of them I didn't have actual conversations with, because what I've understood is that some things I have to come in with resolve within myself.
Yes, I love
So
it.
I have to understand that it wasn't anything that was a slight against me, because like you said, we all were kids. So I can't sit here and blame them for being kids.
Right.
You know, I can't be mad at them for being kids. So I had to understand that, hey, this is what happened, because we all have different things that go on. So they've had stuff going on too.
Right.
That I probably was like, oh, I ain't gonna be able to be part of that. you got some other stuff going on. I'm not gonna be able to be part of that. So I had to understand that was just what it was, you know. But to know that what was big for me was a lot of them didn't judge me for being a young mom.
Okay.
Because, you know, back in the day, when I was having kids in the early 2000s and stuff, people were looking at you like, you're a teenage mom, like, seriously, and looking at you crazy. But a lot of them didn't do that to me. They didn't push me away. They were just living their lives.
Yes.
So when I was able to separate the two and understand that they were not it wasn't personal.
Right.
It was just, we're living our lives, you know, we got things going on.
That's important, though. I think that's very important and key, because like you mentioned, we were children. Let's start there.
Let's start there.
We were children, period.
Yeah.
And then the next part of that is like, we were just living our lives with whatever that is, right? And so ideally, it's like if you're in high school, you are essentially, maybe you're in extracurricular activities, you know, cheerleading, flag football, soccer, whatever it is. And then you're navigating, if church was a thing, or you're navigating family reunions and cousin trips or whatever. And so to then add an adult element essentially to this, you're like, yeah, none of us knew what to do and how to do it. And so I think it goes back to when I asked, you know, like, what does it look like to have a friendship that flourish? I think that grace is something that we have to be willing to share.
Absolutely.
And I say share because sometimes we can feel like, oh, I don't need grace because I'm perfect.
Right.
And it's like, no, we got to share in this grace because the reality of it is you and I were kids and we didn't know that this would even be a thing.
Right.
We were living our lives too, doing whatever it was that we were doing. So I think that's very pivotal to kind of mention, which is why I wanted to like circle back, because I'm like, no, you're right. Like, we're kids and kids are doing what kids do and then some. Right. But like you said, like being able to just kind of, like you said, you mentioned you were like you're like, they had things going on that I was like, nah, I ain't touching that.
Yeah.
And we get to be that way. So I
Yeah.
think we have to remember. My sister tells me all the time, she's like, Regina, people can change their mind. And it sounds very much like people just do whatever they want. And I'm like, but when I sat with it, I'm like, yeah, she's right. Like, I didn't want to accept that, but I was like, no, people really can do what they want.
They can do it.
And I think we connect people doing what they want to the idea of like people don't have boundaries or people don't have structure when like, no, that is a part of their structure.
Right.
Their structure is I do what I want.
Yeah.
Like today I want to talk and like 3 days from now, I don't want to talk to you for a week.
Right.
Now, what we can do that differently is like, let me tell you, like Latoya, I know we usually talk every other day. I don't got it this week.
Right.
So that if something shifts in that and we've not addressed it, then now you feeling the waves because you're like, well, you never communicated that. And I'm thinking something wrong and creating all of these possibilities in my mind. So no, that's good to share. Okay, so you talked about being teen mom and then you talked about being diagnosed and kind of your journey with cancer. And I'm jumping to that because I want to hear how like there's maybe some similarities or differences with the navigating friendships. Like, how was that experience for you?
That to me was worse than the navigating having children.
Okay.
Because to me, and again, trying to understand this thing. So you're talking about two separate things, right? You're talking about giving life. And then when you talk about cancer, you're talking about death.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, okay, while I'm giving life, I'm bringing life into the world. That's something to be joyous about.
Okay.
And when you're talking about cancer, that's not something that people going to jump up and down about. You know what I'm saying? So in my mind, it's a death sentence. And in my mind, I'm going through these transitions and these thought processes of where's my life going to go from this point? Am I going to live? Am I going to survive? Am I going to make it through this? And then to have people who don't fully understand it, because you really, honestly, not going to understand unless you're walking in those shoes. We can talk about it all day and I can make you kind of feel what I'm feeling, but you're not going to understand that when you get that call or you have that appointment and they say you are diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
My life, when they say your life flashes, it literally flashed because I'm like, what have I done with my life? Have I accomplished this and that? What have I been to my family? What am I going to leave behind? So it's all these things.
Right.
And then you have people who don't know how to navigate that.
Yeah.
And then you have no understanding that they don't know how to navigate that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, I'm over here fighting for my life for real. And you trying to tell me that you don't understand? I don't have an understanding for that. So,
but it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. It is. It's a real thing, but I didn't have much grace. I'm not going to even lie.
I'm saying in all of it, I think the fact that you are making it very clear that like, hey, here's something that I was told and I have to process it first.
Yes.
Then come up with a plan potentially and still figure out how to live life in what I think is my last moments.
Right.
But also now I'm aware that like after I share this with my husband, my children, my mom, my dad, my siblings, friends, family, community, now y'all are telling me that this is a challenge for y'all too. You like, wait a minute, it's me over here.
I'm the one over here dying, okay?
Like,
I am literally dying, okay? I don't think people understand. And so it was so much, and I was just so floored. I was so floored, like to the magnitude that I felt like I lost a lot of my community because it was like people legit and at the time when it was happening, it was like people legit really didn't get it or people didn't know what to do with it. So I'm like, I don't care nothing about what y'all talking about. Like, I'm really over here. These people saying that I got to do chemo, radiation, all these things. And I have sat on the side of people who have gone through this stuff.
Yeah.
So now I have to sit in their shoes. And then that's going through my mind too. Because I'm like, at that time, one of my close friends, she had just passed away. from colon cancer.
Okay.
So I'm like, is this what she dealt with? Is this what she was thinking? Is this how she felt? Is this like all of that is going through my mind? And then having, Monique, was going through all of that at the time too. So I was like, is this how she feels on a regular basis? So I'm going through all of that. And then you over here telling me you don't know what to do with it. I'm like, so in my mind too, knowing how I was for those people, I was by their side. Not understanding, but I was by their side. You can't do the same for me. So people not showing up for me because it's hard for you. I have no understanding for that. None. So it took me a minute, and I had to pray through that thing, and I had to start kind of giving grace to some, not all. I had to give
yes.
I had to give grace.
I'm gonna give out ticket coupons for grace. Okay.
Because and I'm saying like grace to the level of where I understand how you felt, and we can also still be in great relationship together. Because at the end of it all, I still don't understand abandonment. And you not showing up for me.
Okay.
At all.
Okay.
Now, not being there on a regular, because I really didn't want to deal with people. So I wasn't answering the phone for some people.
Yeah, this
and
is
stuff
true.
like that. So, but to
well, you
not,
used to respond to me.
Yeah,
I'm special.
Yeah, correct. So that's what I'm saying, because you would at least reach out.
Yeah.
You would at least check. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be like this major thing, but some people didn't show up at all. When I say at
so
all.
I want to clarify for my own sake.
Okay.
Because, and for people who are listening to this, I want to clarify because I always say that everything starts with like a conversation, right? What the conversation looks like, it depends on the parties involved. So when you talk about people not showing up, is this a situation where you're like, hey, Regina, I got this diagnosis. I wanted to share this with you firsthand, not third party. And I just want you to know, like, right now, and this probably is very mature, but it's like, I don't know how I need you to support me. I actually don't know how I'm going to navigate this, but I just wanted, the first course of action was to let you know, make you aware. Like, that's one part of it. Then there's a perspective of it where people get the diagnosis and they kind of go within. Go into
themselves, yeah.
They don't say anything, not even to the people that is in their household or their families. They kind of like, because again, they're processing it.
Right.
And so then you have the people that you're like, hey, I'm going through something right now, and I just, I'm going to be distant or whatever it's going to look like, and that's all you give them. And so based off of those three scenarios, then people then will either address it or they're going to navigate it, I believe, the best way that they know how, right? Is that what you're saying was kind of like how you navigated this? And then people responded based off of potentially.
Yeah, pretty much, because I was, I shared it more than I wanted to, because the whole posting it on social media and everything, I was just like, I wanted to go into myself and not share it with anyone. And I did for the most part, but those that were closest to me.
Okay.
Like people that I talk on, I'm not talking about like, me and you are really, really cool, but we don't talk on a regular basis.
Right.
But other people that I talk to about frivolous stuff.
Yeah.
And then now you're radio silent.
Right.
That's what I had an issue with. So it was like, okay. And then some people I had a conversation with some people, and they were like, I just didn't know what to do with it. I just didn't understand. I just didn't. And I understand to a level, but when you're dealing with something like that and you feel like people have basically left you there to just deal with it on your own, that's the struggle that I had. So it just kind of opened my eyes to some things. And like I said, I gave grace. And even the people that I'm saying I didn't really I gave grace to them as well. It's just shifted our relationship. So our relationship is not the same that it used to be. I don't have any ill will. I don't feel, I'm not negative about it or anything, because God really had to work on me because I really had a hard time.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was just on top of feeling like that has happened over the course of my life.
Okay.
Not just with cancer.
Okay.
It's like over the course of my life,
these individuals have kind of
not the same individual, but people in general. My experience has been that people will leave me to the side and overlook me and put me on the back burner.
Okay.
So at the time where I feel like people should really, really show up,
Right.
and it's still happening, I don't know what to do with that. So I definitely had to work through that. So like I say, right now I feel a whole lot better about it. Like I say, I don't feel a way about them or anything right now. But at the time going through it, because like you said, I'm trying to navigate all that stuff
Right.
while you're not showing up.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So is there anything that could have been done differently by yourself and the others?
I can say could have been done differently by me, but I still don't think that it would have happened because of the simple fact of, again, this is something that I really didn't understand myself.
For sure.
And I really was trying to battle with myself. So in maturity and wisdom now says,
Okay.
you probably should have been this way. But still looking back at the situation, I probably still wouldn't have done it any differently because I didn't understand.
Right.
And I just really was in this very dark place. It was a very dark place to the point where I told God I was turning my back on him.
Oh, wow.
It was very dark. Like I was done.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to do the treatment. It took my husband and my family like, oh no, we're not going to sit over here and just watch you die. And I was like, I feel like I done had my kids. I got married to an amazing man. I've done this and that. I'm good. We can just go on up out of here. What I'm staying here for anyway. Like, that's literally what my mentality was. So to have those mature conversations, I couldn't because I'm turning my back on God. So I got to fix that first before I can even talk to you.
This is
and
true.
I don't even want to talk to him.
Right.
So while I'm trying to fix something with you, I don't even want to talk to God. Like I literally told him, you could just let me die.
Well, you're here.
I am.
Getting people together.
Hallelujah. We thank the Lord.
So let me ask you this. So you talk about like a level of understanding within yourself. And then you talk about like, you're like, well, some things could have been done, but that requires a level of maturity. And so let's talk about the support that you did receive that I'm sure was very overwhelmingly gracious, right? Yeah. Let's talk about how you and these people navigated this together.
Listen.
So let's start with your husband.
Oh my gosh. Y'all, that man, my man. I love him. I love him for real.
Not for real.
I mean, because, hey. But
that's a different podcast.
But even having conversations with him about it after and everything and hearing his perspective, him watching me deal with this and not being able to do anything physically about it. Okay. The only thing he could do was support me because he can't take the treatment for me. He can't take the cancer away for me. All he could do was support and sit back and hope that everything would work. So to know that, and my husband is this massive man. So to have this massive man, you have to watch his wife be frail and weak and go through all of these things, and he can't do anything about it. But he stood tall. He stood very tall in everything I went through. He didn't let me see him sweat. He didn't let me, I didn't even know some of the thoughts he had until I was over the hump, because he just wanted to focus on me being better. And even when he could not go to the appointments or be there for certain things, he would make sure other people could be there.
Oh, wow.
He would make sure that someone was looking out for me and making sure things got handled. When I was never alone outside of him, my family, my siblings, my mom, some of my friends. I was never at an appointment alone. The only thing I did alone was radiation because it was every single day and early in the morning. So it was like, okay, I can do that, whatever, and be fine. But chemo and my other appointments, it was always someone with me. Yeah. So people, even though they didn't understand, and even the dark times at home, I remember having times where I would literally be on the floor in the fetal position crying. And my sisters came and they picked me up and they was like, no, you got to get up. Like, I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it because everybody can't handle those moments.
For sure.
You know, everybody can't handle seeing you, especially when they've known you to be strong. Because I'm the one that lift everybody up. I'm the one that encourage everybody.
Yeah.
So to have these moments where I literally am in the fetal position, on the floor, crying, upset, screaming, all those kinds of things, and to have people come and say, no, you got to get up. You got to get through this. I'm here. I got you. All those things. Those are the things that help me get through it.
Right.
Those moments that I don't even know that are going to hit me because I was getting news left and right. One minute it's like, okay, we can do this and you'll be fine. And then the next minute it's like, oh no, that's not going to work. And
sounds like it was an emotional and physical roller coaster.
Absolutely.
That, I think is not talked about in that space specifically.
Absolutely.
Do you have a group of friends or a specific friend that maybe surprised you in the way that they were able to kind of rally along and journey this space with you?
No, I don't think anybody surprised me that I can remember. Anybody that surprised me, but I will say because of my two friends that I spoke of, Monique and Tiffany, because of their journey, it definitely helped me with my journey.
Oh, good.
So they, Tiffany was already gone, but Monique, she, man, that's my girl, and hopefully I don't cry about her too. But she is the reason I will give credit to her and Tiffany that I'm still here, because seeing their journeys and what they had to do really made me aware of what I needed to do. Because all the things, like you say, they don't talk about, I learned from them. Yeah. Picking the right doctors, picking the right treatment. I had to get more than one consultation because doctors would tell me stuff and I was like, I don't know about that. And I would talk to them
right.
and they were like, yeah, nah, friend, you need to go. Well, I would talk to her. I'm sorry. I would talk to her and she's like, no, friend, you need to go over here. And that's how I ended up getting the care that I got, because I ended up going to the same facility she went to and getting the doctors that I got. And I ended up having the award-winning doctor for the cancer that I had.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, okay, God.
So that's important, right? Because here you are navigating cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Very traumatic. Very much like you didn't see it coming. Right. But you also, and we're talking about this in the support from friends, but what is beautiful about this in a good way is that you have a friend who is navigating cancer as well.
Right.
Multiple types of cancer she's experienced. Right. And here she is being a friend to you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, because we already talked about being a mom and how you got the friends who can't help you. Right. Because they're not a mom and they're like, I'm just a high school person myself. But here you are in a different stage of your life. Mm-hmm. Having a friend navigating cancer as well who's like, here's some of the things that you need to do. Like, here's some recommendations. Yeah. Get more than one consultation. Ask these questions. Yeah. Consider this treatment. Yeah. All of these things while she's also navigating it herself. And I think what is pivotal is that a lot of times friends don't do well with, like, the sky's falling for both of us in the same moment. And it don't always have to be the same thing. Right. But it is because I had to tell somebody recently, I'm like, I dropped the ball. Mm-hmm. I'm in a fuzzy headspace, and it wasn't a situation like cancer, but it is a life situation to where it's like, I too am coined as like the strong friend. Yeah. I take lead a lot of times, and I'm very responsible in spaces to where I'm like, you are, Regina, because I couldn't
even see you in shambles. Like, seriously.
What you mean?
I couldn't even see it. I know it happens, but I couldn't see it.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. So, like, I didn't navigate cancer, but last year, about 4 or 5 people I know passed away right after each other. Yeah. And I had 2 people, Monique, and then another young lady who passed away from cancer. And I remember finding out, I was at a cousin's house, and I found out what her diagnosis was because she told me she was in the hospital, but she didn't tell me it was like hospital like that. And her daughter ended up calling me, and she was like, giving me the rundown of it. And I was like having a whole panic attack, bawling my eyes out. And so, like, to be able to still carry on with my life, not knowing the unknown of the outcome of her situation, I remember getting a call about Monique. Like, not the call that but it was like, I think it's time. Like, I need your support.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in that moment, my friend felt like I shouldn't ask Regina for her support because she's still navigating someone who had just passed away, like probably 2 or 3 weeks in advance prior. But I'm like, we got to do this together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have answers for you. I don't have a recipe,
just here.
nor a prayer, nor a
do.
scripture.
That's
but
it.
I can show up and be present. Same thing I told her.
That's all I can be is
and
here.
so I think that is the beauty of like navigating these life situations. I don't have like biological children, but I think about like I have cousins who all have children, and I think about the shift that it has, or this dance that our life has made because of it. Like them getting married, them having children, and I've thought about like what that looks like. And again, I still believe that everything starts with a conversation, and so for me, a lot of the times, I'm like, things are going smoothly, but then, okay, now it's like there's no conversation about like, hey, I'm married, and so I can't talk on the phone with you all the time. Or, hey, I just had this new baby, or whatever the case may be. And so your experience in this space is like, oh, this is a lot. Like, it's a lot for me. And again, I keep hearing you talk about, like, I didn't understand this because I also didn't anticipate it, and I don't know how to navigate this. So I think it's very beautiful that Monique was able to be a level of a safe space for you and a level of support in a way that, like, even with her no longer being with us physically, she is with us spiritually. To be able to remind us so that shows me that it can happen.
Absolutely.
Like, if she can be sick and not see her sickness as a sickness, and she's still singing, and she's still like, take me to the beach, and she's still parenting her children, all of these, being a spouse, all of these things, then it's like, okay, we really do have to like do a better job.
Absolutely. So that was the addition to why I didn't understand, because
right.
I have two friends, because Tiffany, even though she had already passed before I got diagnosed, she was very, very sick and very, very frail, but she would still show up.
Okay.
She would still show up physically and even mentally or whatever. She would still show up. Like, I remember times where I would have stuff, because I do events and stuff like that, speaking engagements, and she always showed up for stuff like that. And then she was in a hospital one time and couldn't show up, and she called me and she said, "Friend, I'm in the hospital. I'm so sorry I can't show up." Lady, you're in the hospital fighting for your life, and you apologizing to me that you can't show up?
Well, I think it shows humility.
But that's what I'm saying. So to now have people who don't have nothing and you can't show up, I have no understanding. And before she died, she said, "Friend, you stop letting people treat you like that.
Yeah.
You stop letting people treat you any kind of way, because you show up for everybody," which I do. She was like, "You show up for everybody."
So let me ask you, let's put a pin here, or park here. So with the idea of I show up for everybody, right? Is this something that is an expectation from these other friends? Is this something that like they've told you, like, this is a boundary, this is an expectation that I have for you to show up in this way? Or is this just who you are as a person?
It's just me. Genuinely, I will show up for you.
All right, so it's just
real.
Right. And so I think so the the flip side of that is like, again, it starts with the conversation. So, and you could disagree with me, because then it makes for a good...
I will.
So when I think about like, okay, you're like, hey, this is how I show up for people. At what point, over the course of time when we've seen that things haven't changed, at what point do we then say, hey, Regina, let me talk to you?
Oh, I
like,
do that.
Hey, let's pull up to the corner store and let's talk about how, like, I notice X, Y, and Z, and I am more than happy to do these things. But I realize that, hey, the way that you show up doesn't necessarily align with what I desire. So let's talk about, like, how have you navigated that type of conversation with an individual?
Yeah, I have had those conversations. Just what makes it even more upsetting. And disappointing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So when you have them, like, do you get any feedback, or is it kind of like, oh, okay, thank you for sharing?
No, I get feedback. We have a whole full conversation. Like, no, for real. And you make me feel like you're going to do better.
Oh, okay.
And what I have learned is not that they're lying. Now, some people may lie, but some people just don't have the capacity to be that.
Yeah.
I have learned that some people are just not like me. Again,
Well, no one is like you.
Okay.
But I hear what you're saying, like people's level of understanding,
yeah.
capacity, and how people
And how
are
they
willing
show
to
up.
invest and give. Yeah.
Yeah, and how they show up. And something else that made me learn about that is the 5 love languages, because everybody loves differently.
Mm-hmm.
So your showing up for me may not be you showing up to an event or something like that I have going on, or showing up to my bedside when I'm sick, but you're showing it this way.
Right.
But some of these people showed it no ways. So that's what I'm saying.
Showed it no ways.
Yeah, you're like, I'm
so
like,
is
okay.
there an opportunity though? Is there an opportunity for people to get better? And if so,
yeah.
So if it's yes, is there a timeline, right? So we talk about like you mentioned, I've had these conversations and they haven't changed. Is there a like a duration of like, hey, now we done had this conversation 3 times over the course of 15 years. And here we are coming up on year 16 and you still trash or you still doing whatever. Is there an opportunity to, is there still opportunity for them, or is there like, hey,
now it's not
what it is?
It used to be.
Okay.
Because now we're talking about life stages. Okay. So some of these friends, like we're talking about Monique. Me and Monique have been friends since we were like 8, 9 years old.
Okay.
So we had navigated all these life levels, right? So, okay, you're a kid. You don't understand a kid getting pregnant. You're one of the ones that went off to college and lived your life or whatever. I had a little upset moment with you, but I got over that.
Okay.
So then we get into our 20s and so forth or whatever, and then now you're starting to have a family and all those things. So we're navigating that, and I'm seeing a shift in your maturity. Okay. So we're able to still be friends because I'm seeing a shift in how you handle me and your maturity. Okay. So, and you still may not be everything that I feel like I would be to you, but you're trying and you're being something at a level, right? Okay. So then I'm seeing another life shift because we're getting older and all the things. So by the time she passed away, I was able to understand that we were fully friends to each other. Fully. Because to the time she took her last breath, I was there. I went to the hospital before she died. I wasn't there when she died, but I went before she died. And I understood, and God gave me peace with where our relationship was at. Same way with Tiffany, who died before, because we were fully friends to each other. Yeah. So when I see that, and I understand that people are not going to always be everything you think, then the expectations, I had to change those. Okay. I had to change my expectations of people, because again, you may not be able to show up for me like that, but how are you showing up for me? That's what I started to navigate.
Like quality over quantity.
Right. So you may not be showing up for me like that, but hey, they may not be showing up for me like that, but they showing up for me like this. But when I can't say, oh, they're showing up for me like this, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this has been going on for years. I have given people years, okay?
Yeah, years.
Years.
So when you say you've given people years, and I'm assuming like this is opportunity to change and grow and evolve. Do you feel like we do ourselves and other people a disservice when we like? So the idea when people are like, you gotta cut people off. Do you believe in that theory?
Cutting people off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm asking because I can't assume. You know what I mean? I can't assume. And so like when you talk about
cutting people off, a lot of times doesn't have to be negative.
For sure.
And it doesn't have to be in a bad way. It's realizing that you just cannot be what I need in that capacity.
Yeah. And I think the other part of navigating life changes is that like we grow as individuals as our lives evolve, right? And so I'm going to use an example. I have a young lady where we met at work. We became really close. I mean, we would talk every day, hang out. We started celebrating our birthdays and stuff. And then we had a little shift, and we then kind of went on like a hiatus. And so last year we reconnected because of a death. And so we had a little conversation or whatever, and it wasn't like, let's go back and talk about what happened all these years ago, but it was kind of like where we were, like, hey, there's no bad blood, we're not beefing, I love you, and blah, 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 I'm extremely proud of you. And so moving forward, here we are a year later, and we still don't talk every day or whatever, but every once in a while we may send each other a text. But I believe that we are genuinely okay in that space. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that being able to show that, and like, hey, like, I was talking with some friends and we talked about having a friend web. That's in another episode, and how this person used to be a part of the 5.
Yeah.
So it's like 5, 15, I believe it's 50 and then 80. Now this person is not in the 15,
right? Probably
not even in the 50, but this person is within range enough to where, like, I know how close I was close with her mom. She was really fond of my mom and my sister. And so it's one of those things where, like, as she has navigated getting married and having a child and all of these different things, I wasn't up close and center like I probably thought I would be initially. But I'm able to still rally for her and be excited for her in a way that is like, hey, I am genuinely concerned and happy for all that she's accomplishing, even though we aren't together. So I think that's very important. Like you mentioned, like, some friendships have kind of dwindled. Like you say, like, hey, I done gave them their time. I done gave them a lot of grace.
Yeah.
Here's the expiration date. Let's keep it moving. Yeah. So
a lot of times it's more so about me than them.
Yeah.
Because of the kind of person that I am. I'm very relational and I can get attached.
Okay.
So being that I can have this attachment issue, I have to, for the sake of me, cut some people off. Because a lot of times I will drag you with me. When I say I will literally drag you,
because you're like, no, you've been here forever, and it's comfortable, and like, if you're no longer here, now I have to, like, navigate what that looks like,
not having a life without you, and then trying to fill that void of you not being there.
Yeah.
So I had to come to the conclusion of, especially again where my life is going, God told me to start asking a question: can you take them into a room and trust them? Where I'm going, can I trust you in a room? If I'm not there and these people encounter you, what kind of experience would they have encountering you? Because I can overlook a lot of stuff, but people that don't know you coming in, her attitude and her this and she like this and she very detached and they're gonna be looking at me like, and that's what you sons, but
who
you
did
over
she
here
come with?
Yeah, but you over here preaching about XYZ, and that's what no. I can't understand. So it was like I really had to look at it that way and really like, okay, and what am I getting out of this relationship? That's one of the things that ask yourself, what does the person add to your life? If you were not in a relationship with them, what would you lose? How are you benefiting from having them around? And Proverbs 18:24 says, a man who has friends must find himself friendly, but there is a friend who sits closer than a brother, which you're talking about God. God sits closer than a brother. So a lot of times we put friends in this place where we're now creating idols out of them. So now we have a worship of our friends that we don't think that we have because we're not kneeling down to them and we're not doing these certain things. But you can have an idol out of them because you're replacing God with them.
Do you think we do this in every stage of our lives, or do you think that we do it out of like something that we feel like we're lacking, right? So like a lot of times we're so excited to help people who are we'll say the less fortunate, or the ones who don't have address, like all of these different things, when it's like, well, the people who, quote unquote, we feel like they have it all together, do we extend ourselves for them? Because they navigate life too. So do you feel like that this is only done like when you feel like, okay, a person needs something? Because I don't think that is true friendship if we feel like we can only be friends because I need something, as opposed to like, I enjoy the camaraderie that happens with us. I enjoy the learnings and and us doing life together. And it's a plus that, okay, in this life stage that I'm going through, I can still have the support of you.
Yeah. Often it is from a needy standpoint because we want to feel needed. So we feel like we're doing a service to these people by keeping them in our lives because we want to feel needed.
Right.
So a lot of times we will overlook a lot of things because I just want to feel accepted. I want to feel needed. I want to feel important. So I keep these people around, and then I start to do things and operate in a way to keep them around that is not a service of me and who I'm trying to be, and not showing who God is in my life because I depend way more on them to be what God should be.
So then when we are navigating these life stages, because sometimes the life stages, it isn't like a sickness, right? Or an illness.
Right.
Sometimes it's like, I moved to a new city.
Right.
And like that is a shift because I'm no longer in the proximity. And so I could feel like, oh my gosh, everyone else is together and I don't get to go to all of the parties, like, you know, or the cookouts like before. So then it's like, are we then projecting our own stuff on people when it's like people are still showing up? But because, like, we made a decision to move. Like, I've moved several times. And so it's like, and so in me moving, it's like, okay, I chose to move. I told my folks. But then do I then feel a ways because I can't go to the Friday night happy hours? And it's like, but you made a decision to move. That's not supposed to stop.
Yeah.
And even if you say, well, I'm going to try to come, is it on them to carry something wherein it's like they're not excluding you? You move.
Yeah. That is taking you, but knowing that it's just some things that are unavoidable.
Right.
So like you said, moving away, you have to come and understand it because that is a life stage and transition that's hard to navigate a lot of times. Mm-hmm. So you don't even know when you moved that you were going to feel like that.
Yeah.
So because my best friend, who's been my best friend since, because me, her, and Monique were friends. Mm-hmm. We've been friends all our lives. She moved away. She moved to Atlanta. And we both had to navigate, wait, you're not here. You've been here my whole entire life. Okay? So now you're not here. I have to navigate now that you are so far away that I can't reach out to you. So in those moments, instead of me leaning more on God, I found people to fill that void. And because I had that void, I filled the void with the wrong people and didn't realize I was filling that void with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And then I got deep into the relationships and I started noticing, oh, yeah, I just wanted you to be around because I was needy.
So let's use that example where you're like, I filled that void with other people, potentially the wrong people. Was there ever a thought or conversation with yourself about like, okay, this person is moving, and although we've been in Jacksonville our whole life and she's moving away, how do I then step up differently in the friendship? Had that ever come across your mind?
With her? Mm-hmm. The amazing thing, and this is when I know that certain relationships are God ordained, we haven't missed a beat since she left.
Oh, good.
It would be as if she still lives here. Me and her talk on a regular basis for hours at a time. When she can come in town for something, like she came for my last chemo treatment. Okay. Like when she can come in town, she comes in town. When I can go there, I went there. When she had surgery, I went there and took care of her for like a week. You know, so it's like we still show up for each other. So again, when you have people who are around you not showing up like that, it just really don't settle in my mind.
Well, remember you talked about people's level of capacity. So it's like so when you're replacing her with these other people.
To learn that though.
Okay.
Because at the
Very
time.
Good.
Yeah,
high five.
I don't want to high five you because you paid it. So
and again, when I have conversations just in general, I always am not being devil's advocate, but I'm always providing perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's so easy to be like, this person is horrible or trash or whatever. Right. And it may very well be true.
Yeah.
I just think about, because like, again, I've moved several times and I know that people I remember being in Hawaii and a young lady that I befriended, we're really good friends. And she asked me, she was like, a few people were like, how's it that you have so many people to talk to back home? And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, there's a huge time difference. And if people are talking to you on the phone and you're here and they're there, that means that y'all have been very intentional about communication. Because some of them were like, we haven't talked to our family since we left.
Yeah.
Or like we talk once a month.
Yeah.
And so I kind of chuckled at it because it was like a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
But then it made me sit with it and think about, okay, here's a life stage where I have not just relocated.
Yeah.
I am all like, I'm in a whole nother time zone. And not a 2-hour time zone.
No, at all.
Right.
I've traveled there.
And so when I thought about it, you know, one of the things that I encouraged them, and I was like, well, first of all, I have so many people, but I'm like, 5 people is not so many people, but okay. They're like, I only have one. Right. And so they were like, you know, what did you do? They're like asking me, and I'm like, I don't have any tips. But then I think about intentionality. Like it was important. It was important for me as well as them for us to stay connected because although I was far away, I think sometimes what we forget about people who move and relocate is that like it is a transition and a shift for them. So if a person moves, yes, it is also on us to be like, let me figure out what does it look like to continue these relationships that are important to me, but also to have the other parties lean into that too. And so I think that all of that in terms of navigating different life stages, like it's tough.
Yes.
Like, let's be honest. The reality is it is hard.
Yeah.
It can be traumatic.
Yeah.
It can be exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I'm not saying any of those in a bad way. I'm saying, no, this is the reality of it. Like the reality of it is we all have a level of responsibility. And so that on top of, okay, now my sister just moved or my mom just moved or now they're sick. Or like I think about, I've been a caregiver for 3 or 4 times. And that can be, when I thought about it in hindsight, someone asked me, did I ever feel burnout? And I was like, no. And it was like, tell me more.
Yeah.
And part of that is because I know why I was doing it. The other part of that was I believe that it was like a part of something that I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we do have people who are doing things for the sake of somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's not what you're supposed to do. Like we would like to help and support people in a way that we have the means to do it, but I don't believe sometimes it's for us to step into.
Yeah. And that's something I had to realize too, that just because they're my friend doesn't mean that they have to be that in that moment. And it's not just, again, about them. It's about me, too. A lot of the things I've dropped the ball on. I haven't been the greatest friend. I haven't shown up how I should, even though I felt like I was. But that may not be the way that they wanted me to show up, you know, and done the things that I needed to do. I had the understanding and the grace that I should have had. So that's why I say now I have a lot more grace for friends and stuff because what I understand is...
Shout out to having more grace for friends.
You're so aggravating. So because I understand that people are in different phases. Like now, my kids, I'm an empty nester because I had them so young. But my friends are having kids, you know, so I have to have a grace to understand, hey, you gotta...
Do you ever feel like, come on now with these kids?
No, I love kids. Like, and I have a level of understanding because I was a mom. I was a single mom. I was a young mom.
Yeah.
So I understand that, hey, your kid got something going on and your kid is more important than me, you know, so I understand that. And I could be around you and hang out with your kids and I'm totally fine. Like, I can block out like the noise and all that stuff. That don't bother me. Like, I can literally be sitting in a room and they be like, you don't hear that? I mean, it doesn't bother me. I've been a mom. I raised kids. So I have a certain understanding and a grace for them now, you know, but I've also become at peace because, like I said, I can get attached. So I always want people with me. So I'm becoming. I'm not all the way there yet. I'm becoming okay when people can't be with me physically all the time. You know, when I go and do... So is
quality time like a big thing for you?
It's becoming to not be as big because I love my own space.
But it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we need to hang out. We need to do this and that or whatever because I used to always be around people.
See, I can see you being like, child, I talked to y'all already. I'm not coming tomorrow. But...
Now. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I feel like even when I met you, But again, that was in a different space.
Yeah.
Like these are things. Some
When
of
it's
these
people
things.
outside of my family and closest friends.
Oh, okay.
So
I can see
the
that.
family and close friends, I could be with them all the time.
Okay.
Because that's just how I'm set up. But friends and people outside of that, yeah, I just saw you, so I don't really have to see you for a minute again. It's okay. You know? But I love camaraderie. I love, hanging out with people and stuff like that. So I'm okay with it. It's just like I said, I'm becoming okay because I believe now, especially when I'm starting to speak more in different places and be in these certain events and stuff,
Yes,
and doing. Come on
traveler
Come
speaker.
on here. That's what I'm saying. I have to be okay with, even out to my husband, he may not be able to travel with me to go to this speaking engagement
and that doesn't
stuff
mean he
like
doesn't
that.
support you.
And he fully supports me,
Right.
but the me kind of wife, no, my husband needs to come. I don't understand why he's not here, and I don't like it.
You're spoiled.
I am very spoiled.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's his fault, and I tell him all the time, you can't get mad because it's your fault.
I'm glad I am
and it's
not
my
in the
mom's
top
fault.
5. I'm probably like in the 80,
and that's
and
what
I'm
I'm
okay.
a brat. So that's why I had to understand with my friends. I'm like, I'm a brat for real. So I got to pull back.
You are.
Relax, okay? Relax.
So let me ask you this. So has there been a life stage thus far where you felt the most supported by your friends?
I pretty much, again, we're talking about the close circle of friends, not like a vast. And what I had to understand is I didn't have to have as many friends because Jesus had 12 disciples and only 3 of them were the closest to him. So I had to understand that you don't have to have all these people. And I just think you have to have all these people and all these friends for you to be important and all these things. But I've learned now that you don't have to have that. So I'm okay with the limited capacity. But the core people, when I was sick, when all the things I've gone through, they have shown up so much.
Shout out to the core.
And yes, the core people, they are amazing. I could not have gone through all the things I've gone through without them. And with my ministry and stuff growing, they have always pushed me, always encouraged me.
Yeah.
They believe in me more than I do. They be like, I understand. Like when stuff happens, and I tell my husband, I was like, I can't believe that these people actually listen to me. And he says all the time, I don't understand why you don't believe that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that is something to be said about our friends who do, journey with us.
Yeah.
I know for me, people will ask me all the time, they're like, how do you just get to get up and go and move and do all these different things? And I will have to say, my friends be like, yeah. I have, like you said, my core, my little 5, that's like the top. I come to them and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this. And they be like, okay.
Yeah.
They're like, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
And then and my sister is the same way.
Yeah.
So I feel like she's like a big, she's my oldest sister / mom, but she's also a friend. And I go to her and I'm like, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, what's your plan?
Yeah.
What do we need to do?
Yeah.
And so we do it. And so I think for me, I can't say one single thing, but I will say that a lot of it over the course of my life, especially me moving several times. And I remember packing up to go to Hawaii, I sold a car and then I had one car and I gave it to a friend of mine. I'm like, y'all use this and you got time to look for another car. And then I had this situation. I gave away furniture and all of these different things. And people are like, they're like, oh my gosh, you've had so much support. I'm like, yeah. A lot of times my family or my friends are always like, we love this for you because there may be a time where you don't get to do this because a new thing is going to brew and the stages of your life is going to be different. But in this space, let's do it.
Yeah. That is something I definitely get. I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for my people, I would not be able to do all the things I do because they definitely support me. They definitely help out. Especially, my husband, he never tries to keep me silent. He never tries to, outshine me or dim my light. He never does that. So it just makes me be like, oh, okay, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely important. To have that support system on all levels, because again, you may not you may not be good as the person that shows up, but you may be the person that's good to do some stuff, like put something together that I don't even know how to do.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? You know how to organize this or do something, where I'm weak, you're strong type situation. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I definitely am now not putting so much weight on a friend being all things.
For
But if
sure.
you're showing up highly in some areas,
Yeah,
that's
we can
enough for
rock with
me.
it. All right,
Absolutely.
so let me see. Give me 2 things
Oh, okay.
that that we can share with the people as like staples for them to help be better friends through different life stages with their friends and even within themselves. Give me 2 things. What you got?
Okay, so one of the things is to give grace. We talked a lot about that today. I am learning and have learned to give grace.
Okay, giving grace. Yes, we've been talking
Yes,
about that a lot.
yes,
Yeah.
give grace because your friends need it. Sometimes they're gonna drop the ball, sometimes they're not gonna show up fully or whatever. So they need that. And the other thing is understand who you are.
That's
When
good.
you understand who you are, you know what you need in a friend.
Yeah.
So instead of you going to get all these friends that do all these things, then you be like, oh no, I don't need 15 people. I just need these 2 because I know who I am and what I need, and they're able to handle that.
That's good.
And show up in the capacity that I need them to show up in.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I know
good.
who I am.
I like that. Okay, so grace, giving grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like to say receiving grace. So giving it and receiving it, because I think the more we can be gracious with ourselves is,
Yeah,
it helps
absolutely.
us with others. And then, like you said, what was the other one you said? What was the
Understand
second
who
one?
you are.
Understand who you are. And I love that because I oftentimes talk to people about, and I said this earlier, about when we know who we are, we can identify the things that we value, and the things that we value help guide us in making decisions. So that's real good. Let's see. Do I have at least one? You gave 2, so I give 1. I'm going to go back to, again, everything starts with a conversation. I think we miss out a lot in friendship because we're like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm over it, and it is what it is. And I'm like, all of the passion you put into that little thing, I'm like, you could have used that to have. So I think I encourage people to have conversation and to be open and honest and come to a conversation not like I'm gonna read this person, but come to the conversation understanding like I'm gonna create space for the person to share.
Yeah.
But also I need to come and be as vulnerable as I can.
Yep.
These conversations may not always be a safe space, but we got to be brave enough to do it. So I appreciate that. I have a friend quote, and I think in this conversation that we had today, the quote that I selected was, "Friendship is a sheltering tree." And it makes me think about how, like, as we navigate different life stages, friends are trees for us, or they may be the branch. They may have to be an extension, or they may be like leaves and then fall away or whatever. And some of them are very much rooted and they grow and blossom with us. So I like to have a little friend quote. Any thoughts about that quote?
Yeah. I mean, when you said it, like you're talking about, you have friends that will cover you. A tree covers. A tree covers you from shade, from the sun. I'm sorry, gives you shade from the sun. The tree provides nutrients. It has fruit on it sometimes. A tree provides many things for you, and that is something that a friend should. They should provide something that benefits your life.
Right.
Because just having people just to be around you just is a waste of time, and a waste of room. Like, I can have other people, here in this capacity if I just let these people go. So having all these people here, that just doesn't matter. So to have certain friends there that can be those trees and to be that shade and to be that branch, it could be an extension to reach out to someone or something that you probably can't reach. So yeah, absolutely. I think that is definitely a good quote.
All right. Well, again, thank you for joining me today. I really
You're welcome.
appreciate it. As we conclude this episode of Friendships That Flourish, we're reminded of the value of authentic connections, enriching our lives, and fostering a sense of belonging. I want to encourage you all to apply some of what we discussed today in your lives this week. Thank you all for listening. Remember to like, follow, and share Friendships That Flourish on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you so much. Bye. Thanks for listening to Friendships That Flourish, the podcast with your host, Regina Nicole. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms and be sure to listen to us on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Don't forget to email us any of your topics and questions at friendsthatflourish@gmail.com.